Hey, hey, hey. I think we are streaming live. That's what we're trying to do. This is the Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. This is Counselor Curtis. I'm here with Jimmy Doane.
Hello there, everybody. Jimmy Doane.
We hope you are tuning in live. If not, you can. Twice a week these days, 4 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays and Sundays, just like the sign says. We'd love to have you. Of course, that's me right there. So, tune in, share, do whatever you like.
Yeah.
All right. Oops. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. What happens when the Counselor Curtis tries to do the engineering as well. We don't have an engineer anymore.
Today is the 22nd of July.
22nd of July, Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the news this week has centered around Trump, obviously.
Yeah, it was like more about the Helsinki thing,
right?
And the walk back and everything.
What's interesting is they can't seem to get enough of it. I did this morning. I tuned into a couple of the talk shows and listened to the list of the guests.
Yeah.
I immediately turned them off. You knew exactly what they were going to say. The same old, same old. Although they were going to have Oxo Cortez or whatever her name is on one of them, and they have a thing on
Ocasio Cortez.
Yeah, right. But they have a thing now that shows Bernie running with her.
Yeah.
In 2020.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Might as well just.
Well, it's like I was saying. Peter Schiff was saying, interesting theory. As we have projected before, we don't think that the real correction happened in 2008.
Right.
Because the government stepped in and rescued everybody. That's not real money. Mm-hmm. That's not a real correction. What we see today in the economy is the bubble. If it deflates again during Trump's presidency, administration, the question is, does Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez ride the wave straight into the presidency?
Right.
Socialism for all. Free education. Dogs and cats.
That's right.
Everything you want.
Yeah, that's and of course I thought for sure, we all thought that it was going to be during Obama's.
Well, yeah. And by it, you mean the collapse.
The collapse. I thought the collapse. I mean, I honestly thought the collapse was going to be before 2012, and here it is 6 years later.
Yeah, I thought for sure it would be at least at the transition in 2016. I thought they would dump it all on Trump.
Yeah.
But
no.
So far, he's done it. He's done the same thing, of course, and by that I mean $1 trillion deficit spending and. Not exactly a tight monetary policy over there at the Fed.
No.
Although they have tightened, and of course he did criticize them about that.
Yeah, he criticized them, right.
Which is very interesting. I wonder what he thinks about the tightening. Somebody must have told him, generally, it's bad.
One of the things people don't realize, I remember years ago,
his administration,
when, the interest rates, the regular, normal interest rate for government stuff was 5%.
Oh yeah, and as you remember, in the 70s, 18%, 19%,
right.
Interest rates went way up when Volcker ripped the knob off the governor and allowed it to correct.
And it did, and it corrected almost right away. It was the worst depression they were saying since 1939 or 29, but it was all over by 1982.
And that, of course, is, I think, what we would both recommend he do now. Trump, that is.
Oh boy, it's a lot of pain for a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen that way anyway, I don't think, because I don't think any of the politicians, including Trump, have the cojones to take that pain up front.
No, they don't. Again, it would have
suffer the political damage.
Right. Yeah,
which could be like, hanging's not good enough for him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it is interesting because the number of people that have come out, essentially, the usual suspects have, of course, come out and called Trump a traitor, and needs to be, drawing up things. But it's interesting. Now, at least one Republican, a guy, I forget his name, is Henry something from Texas, and he says, and he was an ex-CIA officer. Over the course of my career, and again, I forgot to put his name down here. Over the course of my career as an undercover officer for the CIA, saw Russian intelligence manipulate many people. I never thought I would see the day when an American president would be one of them. And of course, they call him Putin's puppet.
Right. Okay. So that was pretty apropos.
Yeah, Putin's puppet. That's right. He's pulling the strings. Making him dance around and everything. Has him in his pocket. Whatever it is. The president's failure to defend the United States intelligence community's unanimous conclusions of Russian meddling in the 2016 election.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Yeah, 17 intelligence agents. Do we need 17 intelligence agents? Condemn Russian covert counter influence campaigns and his standing idle in the world. Let me just see here. Let me get my glasses here so I can read this thing. Standing idle on the world stage while a Russian dictator spouted lies confused many but should concern all Americans. By playing into Vladimir Putin's hands, Putin's palms. See, I had a little alliteration there.
Yeah, that's much better.
The leader of the free world, actively participated in a Russian disinformation campaign that legitimized Russian denial and weakened the credibility of the United States to both our friends and foes abroad.
It's a little strong. Everybody is reading into these words that they use at this press conference a little too much, from my perspective. They're words. It's a press conference. It's a press. You're literally supposed to come out at the presser and say nice things, especially about the person you've just had a summit with. You can't come out and say, for example, I mean, look, there's only two ways to answer the question. I wasn't here last week, so I'm going to comment on the Helsinki thing.
Okay.
There's only two ways Trump could have answered that question that the reporter asked of him in Helsinki. Basically, the reporter said, "Would you like to throw Putin under the bus right now?"
Okay.
And the only two ways to say it is to praise Putin or to say something like, Putin, that guy, he's a dictator, he's an asshole. No offense. Hey,
yeah.
Right.
Nudge, nudge.
Right. I mean, you can't, there's no way. So he fumbled through, he should have been prepared. One of my commenters had a great answer. He said, you put it on the intelligence agencies. You just say, well, our intelligence agencies have concluded that he crossed the line.
Right.
I expressed my concerns to the guy. We won't tolerate it going forward. There. Done. Next question.
Yeah.
But he fumbled around, and of course he threw our intelligence agencies under the bus, which I think is the worst thing that he said at the conference. I mean, he's the leader of all these agencies.
Yeah, I know. He could have said it a little nicer, I suppose.
You can't say, I don't trust any of these people working for me. He can throw the media under the bus all day long.
Right.
They're the hacky media, whatever it is. But he cannot turn on the FBI or on the CIA or any of those agencies. That's just not. He needs to. If there's a problem, he needs to go in there and whoop some ass.
Well, he has fired people.
I know, but
so.
I'm just saying that's not the tact to take from my perspective.
Okay. Well, again, I think that the word is out that there has been some subterfuges kind of stuff on the part of the intelligence agency. I mean, I can't believe them. I mean, weapons of mass destruction, yellow cake, I mean, all this stuff.
Well, it happens all the time, but what you do is, as the president, you blame the faction within the group. You go in there and you cut out whoever it is you think is messing with it, but generally you support the agency overall. Otherwise, you abolish the agency. I mean, if you really think it's that bad, then you just go in there with, okay, executive order 263.
No more CIA.
That's it. They're gone. I don't need them. I mean, he's the chief executive officer. That's his purview, I think.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I find it interesting, though, that the number of people that are trying to throw Trump under the bus for all these supposed transitions. Huge, yeah. And as I say, the usual suspects and so forth. But anyway, that's that. Let me just see here if I've got something else. There's a bunch of stuff on Kavanaugh. And
more on the Supreme Court nominee?
Yes, that's the Supreme Court. There's a couple of things. First of all, Kavanaugh this is one of the things that's interesting. As of Friday, I think it was, today's Sunday, I think he had a giant document dump on the House Judicial Committee or whatever it is, whoever is the people that are going to question him. The simple fact is that so he dumped about 1,000 pages or more of documents and past speeches, and another 1,000 pages, I think, of his personal financial stuff, and then he dumped about 2,000 pages of rulings and writings and all kinds of other stuff that that they might want to peruse. But I mean, it's a lot of stuff, and I guess they're kind of going to go through it. What's interesting, of course, is he already was approved when he was the Court of Appeals or whatever he would come up from. He had already been, the Spanish Inquisition on as far as when he had to be approved for his last judgeship. So I guess they're going to go through the whole thing again. And what's going to happen is and here's the other thing about it is Democrats and Republicans. This is what's interesting. Will burn tens of millions of dollars in a campaign to confirm Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh or torpedo his nomination. I mean, this is what the stakes are. It's a shame that it used to be you would put up in the 30s or 40s or something like that. You'd put up a Supreme Court nominee, and and the next day they'd be approved.
Right. Well, of course, that ever since Bork, it's been you get borked.
Yeah, you get borked. So anyway, but I mean, this is how important it is. Apparently, they're all panicky. They're saying that women will be forced to have babies from now on, and they're going to be, I forget what other things they're going to overturn. But the big spenders will take over the elections. Gerrymandering will be approved. And all this kind of stuff that they've rolled out.
Well, you got to portend the worst,
right? And of course, on the other side, this is the judicial nominee who's a saint. And,
right.
And so anyway, but what's interesting is that they're going to
Jesus himself.
That's right. So everyone will try to force the hands of swing votes like Senator Lisa Murkowski, R. Alaska, and Susan Collins, R. Maine, and Joe Donnelly, D-I-N-D. Apparently, Joe Donnelly has told, what's his name? Yes. Come on.
Trump.
No, not Trump. The guy in the House that's under, the guy that's in the Senate. He's
McConnell?
No, the Democrat. Not. Chris, what's his name? New York ex-governor.
Cuomo?
No. Come on. Well, I'm drawing a complete blank. His son is up there in New York doing something too. Anyway, oh God, I can't. I'm sitting there looking at. He's the guy that you don't get between him and
a microphone.
And a microphone. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Chucky. So anyway, they're gonna, and of course, Joe Donnelly, D of Indiana, has said that he told Chucky to bite me. Basically, and they said, are you going to be, so
he's going to go along with the vote.
He may very well, right?
Right.
And so that's.
Well, we said all along it'll be an easy vote, relatively speaking.
Yeah, and of course, what's interesting is another thing that's kind of interesting is that apparently McConnell is going to pull out the stops and have this vote right before the midterm elections. I thought he had said he was going to call for a vote in mid-September, but apparently now he's going to call for it like at the end of October or something.
Oh, right. To pressure the other.
Exactly. I mean, this is going to be, if you think this is not going to show up on your, the
right, your ballot.
I mean, you're going to have to go and defend your vote or whatever it is this way. So
yeah,
that's kind of interesting. So anyway, it's about and of course it's one of these things they've already figured out how he's going to rule on everything, and it's
don't be too
no,
sure.
don't. I mean, we have said this before. Yeah. When Eisenhower was asked about his mistakes, he says 2, and they're on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So they went the other way.
It's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah. So. Let's see. So anyway, many people see the confirmation of Kavanaugh as a possible path to overturning Roe v. Wade, or ruling against labor something, whatever it is here. Hold on a second. Labor movement. Okay. Now another item here. Let me just see here. Oh, this couple of things. New York authorities have. This is on Uber. I'm thinking about. Now you mentioned this. You were up in Atlanta and you said you discovered Uber.
Uber in Atlanta is so awesome. It is so convenient. I took an Uber from downtown Atlanta to north of the Loop, about 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
The entire ride was like at least a 30-minute ride, and $20.
$20. And in a cab, $100.
$100. That's what I was expecting.
Right.
I was all prepared for an $80 Uber ride. That's what I was hoping. I was like,
Well, didn't you say that?
80.
Didn't you say that they appeared in front of you in 6 seconds or
60 seconds. The guy was there. I downloaded the app. That was my first Uber ride. I downloaded the app. I put in the address. That's how you call a car. It said there are 8 cars in the area. I verified, the first one it suggested. And the guy was there before I could put my phone away, grab my stuff, and get out the door.
Unbelievable.
It was awesome. It was great. Uber is, I'm down with Uber at this point. No money changes hands. It was all done on the phone. I didn't have to tip the guy or anything. There was nothing. He let me sit up front, change the AC.
Cool.
Yeah.
What kind of car was it?
It was not a special car or anything. It was
newish?
like an Accord. Yeah, it was newish.
Okay.
And it was clean.
Okay.
So works for me.
Yeah, gave him 5 stars.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Well, it's interesting. In New York, the authorities have reached a decision that could change the way Uber drivers are classified. At least a decision when it comes to unemployment insurance. This is interesting. New York State Unemployment Insurance Appeal Board has ruled in favor of 3 former Uber drivers who filed a federal lawsuit against the ride-hailing service after the unemployment insurance they claim was denied. And didn't go through. 2 of them left Uber after being booted off the platform, which is interesting, while the last one quit because he was making below the minimum wage. I thought that was interesting. The board's decision doesn't apply to them anyway, but it might apply to in the future. So this is again, unemployment insurance. Maybe somebody's going to have to start paying that. It's going to make more. In other words, what they're thinking about doing, they've been trying desperately to make Uber drivers employees, and instead of independent contractors.
Right. So this ruling, ostensibly for purposes of state unemployment insurance, makes them employees of Uber.
Exactly.
And to me, I mean, that's the way the government is going to try to grow. They're going to try to tax. They're going to try to tax Airbnb in ways they tax hoteliers.
Right.
They've
passed some rather substantial, and of course, it's only aggravated the housing in San Francisco because so many of the buildings are so expensive out there, and some people are buying them up and using them, strictly as Airbnb. So they passed some rules that you have to have a 1-month lease.
Right, they did that in L.A. as well.
Oh, did they do it in L.A.?
They did it to 1-month lease. And
so now how do you get around that?
What you do?
This is so great. How do you get around that?
Yeah, what you do is you require a 1-month lease at like $20 a day, cancelable at will.
Okay.
And so there you go.
There you go. That's it. Well, no, of course they'll probably find a way. Some way to
shut that
down. Yeah. Well, of course they're missing. I don't know if the hotels are all that upset about it, because one of the things that hotels do that you can't do on Airbnb is conventions.
Well, right.
I mean, they have those guys are booked all the time. Those major hotels.
Yeah, I mean the major hotels have got it figured out where they know where their crowd is coming from.
Right.
Like you said, they're right outside of the sports arena or the beach, where they're aren't that many other hotel or residences that people could Airbnb out. But it's great. I just love the free market aspect of the Airbnb.
No, it's great. It's great. And of course, the other thing about the hotels is they give you courtesy cards and stuff like that. You get points and everything. So, I mean, if you're a business.
For flying in your other rental cars and such. And also you have amenities and things like that.
Yeah. So anyway, we're seeing that we may see the desperate, as anything that gets big and there's money flow, the government really wants to get its hand on it. I mean, that's it's as they say as P.J. O'Rourke used to say. Well, that's right. That's where why do you rob banks? Well, that's the money is. Well, as P.J. O'Rourke once said, money is to politicians like dung is to flies. So okay. Interestingly enough, another thing that caught my eye was the country. I love the headline. The country that brought you the Spanish Armada is having hair-tearing problems with the latest submarine to join its fleet. What is Spain doing with a submarine fleet? It's diesel.
Spain, like they say, at one time was a world power, and they're what, like the 10th richest country in the world or something like that?
Really?
Yeah, I mean they're right there with Russia. Like Spain and Russia are always going back and forth as to who has the bigger economy.
Well, I do know that they were getting ready to go broke with the euro or something. Didn't they borrow too much money or something?
They were in pretty bad shape for a while there, but
it was Greece, Italy, Ireland, and Spain or something.
Yeah. The grips.
Yeah, the grips, right. Anyway, it's interesting. They had little minor problems. Okay, this is what I love about this. This is the beauty of it. The Isaac Peril, the first in class of new generation of Spanish Navy attack submarines. This is a diesel attack submarine. Okay, is too large to fit in its new future port. The submarine was enlarged after a design flaw introduced doubts as to reliable if it could rise to the surface. Or it could sink fine.
Yeah,
but it could sink fine. But they said, you blow the ballast tanks and maybe it won't go up. And the Spanish Navy ordered 4 of these S-80 diesel electric attack submarines in 2003 to replace the aging Cold War era Augusta class. The new fully modern diesel, allowed them to stay underwater longer than other diesel electric submarines. The S-80s are armed with 6 torpedo tubes and capable of launching the German Seahawk guided torpedoes, American Harpoon anti-ship missiles, and Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles.
So if they have to go to war with one of their colonies,
right? They just sail it. Well, think about it. Spain, they still speak Spanish in a lot of the Caribbean areas.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of former colonies.
Yeah. They could attack the Dominican Republic.
That's right. Take that thing back, man.
That's right. You got it. It was saddled with problems from the start. Spain's economy took a severe downturn during the late 2000s, and the country's defense budget was put under strain, blah, blah, blah. In 2013, after the first boat was ordered, authorities detected a critical flaw in the design. The submarines were 75 to 100 tons heavier than anticipated.
What the hell? What did they miss?
Well, it says here, they could dive, but there was some question as to whether they could reliably surface again. We just mentioned that.
Right.
According to BBC, quoting the Associated Press, the problem was the result of someone involved in the design placing a decimal point in the wrong place.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The decimal point in the wrong place. The problem was not discovered until the ships were under construction. So, this is incompetency at its worst. I think about this and I have to laugh. Again, what's Spain spending all the money from? They're in debt up to their eyeballs, and what are they doing? Of course, what are we doing with new carriers,
right?
And battleships and so forth. Excuse me. Well,
are they in NATO?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're required to pony up their 2%, whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
They need to do something.
Well, of course, it's going to be pretty bad if it doesn't rise to the top.
Hey, yeah, they'll make it. They'll figure it out.
Just stay on top.
It's the kind of thing that would be very effective against pirates.
That's true.
Sort of interdicting a minor skirmish or something if they feel so inclined. Ethiopia versus Congo or something.
Eritrea.
Right. Madagascar.
Right. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Right. Well, we'll take over Madagascar. Okay, that's pretty much the only the last thing I've got, and we're going to end up here a little early unless you've got some other stuff.
Not really. Boy, it was a bleak news week as far as that was.
Well, it was all the same. Really, to me, it was just nonstop pillaring on Trump.
Right.
And just you couldn't turn on the news. Well, as I said, I've cut my cable entirely for the news. I don't even watch the news anymore. I get everything I get on a podcast, and some of them, like this morning.
That's a cable.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, the one last thing I've got, which I think is kind of interesting.
Uh-huh.
The last few years have seen Apple expanding into India.
Aha!
With the iPhone, but now
brings us to our exotic location of the day.
Okay, here we are in India, right?
Yes.
Excuse me. But now the company is facing a serious problem if it doesn't cater to the demands of the country's telecom regulator. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRA, it's like our FCC, I guess, has put new rules in place in an effort to protect mobile users' privacy and block spam calls and messages. Part of this policy involves making an app available to every subscriber, but Apple refuses to allow it in the App Store, ironically due to privacy concerns. Excuse me. I'm feeling bad here. The regulator requires that all carriers in India make Tray, T-R-A-I, do not disturb app available for users to download and install on their device. The app then gives users the ability to report unsolicited calls and messages. Apple has not allowed it on their App Store, however, due to the fact that the app requires access to call history and message logs in order to send reports to the agency. So again, once again, what we're seeing here is the government has decided to protect people
From having an iPhone.
Well, that's right. And,
Here, and that brings us to our sponsor of the day,
okay.
which is Apple iPhone.
Ah, yes.
Here's a list of the 2G iPhone, from the 2G all the way up to the 10. Their release dates. So, pretty cool.
It is. So when was the first one? In
2007 was the 2G.
Okay, so it's been 11 years.
Yep.
It's been 11 years, and look what's happened in 11 years on your iPhone. How it's come along.
Man, pretty awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, it is interesting to see how ubiquitous Apple is. To me, when you watch almost any TV show where there's a laptop, it's almost always an Apple because they put it on the back there.
Yeah, I feel like they must have some kind of sponsorship deal, some kind of product placement deal.
You think?
Yeah, with some producer, because I seem to see more Apple stuff in places than like you said, than other products. Interestingly, though, when I'm working in Atlanta on the background of TV shows and stuff, they specifically tell you if you have an Apple phone, put it in your pocket. They can't see any of that stuff
Really?
on the screen there.
And why?
Well, because otherwise they'd have to pay an endorsement or get some kind of permission from Apple. So
Really?
yeah, can't.
That's amazing. I mean, I wonder what happens if you have a box of cornflakes or something. I mean,
You have to put corn flakies or
Okay.
something. They change it. You'll always see the box of cereal in the Terminator. It's
generic.
rice. Yeah, it's something. Rice flakes or
Yeah.
something.
Rice not crispy.
Right.
God, look at this rain.
It's killing. It's coming down.
It's coming down. My yard is flooding here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is going to be a short show because that pretty much covers what I had.
That's all I got today. I really didn't have anything, so I tried to fish for some topics. I asked people to put their worst 3 Trump, the things that Trump has done the worst so far.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, very few people sort of adhered to the parameters.
Well, I saw a couple on there that they said, one said just the worst thing you did was become president.
Well, but that was the thing. The question was, as Counselor Bart was quick to point out, it says since becoming president.
Right.
So,
Staying president.
I was trying to avoid. Yeah, right. I was trying to avoid getting into the Russian collusion thing.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, we will. This is going to be a short show, and give us your comments and likes and so forth. We will be back on Wednesday at about 4 o'clock. We were running a minute or two late today.
Yeah, and I can see here that maybe we might have bifurcated the show, and you might have had the first part of the show might not be such great quality. If you wait about an hour or two, I'll have a nice high quality show up there for everybody's viewing pleasure. So thanks for tuning in. Come back around anytime. Send us an email. Like me on Facebook. I'm at Counselor Curtis on Twitter.
And I'm at Jimmy Doane.
There you go.
I'm at Jimmy Doane on Twitter.
All right. Happy Sunday.
God, look at this pouring down rain.